Yeah, man. Happy end of 2024. My name is Tom Barnas. This is the Stories from the 78 podcast. And to be honest, the podcast, the last few, had all good intentions of being something cohesive. But when you have a newborn at the end of the year and you're in your mid 40s, things go a little awry. And that's what happened. So I apologize. But nonetheless, we have made it to the end of 2024. And I appreciate everybody that has gone to the website, that has watched a video, that has read an article. I know people say this all the time that do this type of thing, but I really do appreciate it because, to be honest, I don't do it for people saying, oh, I love this or I love that. I do it for myself, honestly. And I know that other people enjoy hearing fun stories about things in Chicago, especially with everything in the world crapping all over Chicago. I really do love it here. And then, the random stories along the way. It's just been a great platform. So thank you for a great 2024. And as I reflect on 2024, it was a year of surprise and a year of, uh, self-reflection a little bit, and a year of uh, triumph. Just because 2024 was the first full year at CBS, where after I left the nonprofit world, which was terrible, went to CBS, and they have created a great atmosphere for working. There were layoffs, and survived the layoffs and able to still do this and hopefully do something similar to what I'm doing here over at CBS with a version of Stories from the 78 that's a little bit more refined for what CBS does. So keep tuned for that. That's that's 2025. But going back to 2024, we were not pregnant, and we were trying, and lo and behold, going to Florida in March landed us a pregnancy where our young little Willow was we were graced by her presence, I should say, the day before Thanksgiving of this year. And she was early, and she almost made it to Thanksgiving. She was 5 minutes from Thanksgiving, born at 11:55 the day before Thanksgiving. But all intents and purposes, she was born on Thanksgiving, and you can tell by the by the treatment at the hospital, it was a weekend. And but she's been a joy ever since she's been here. She's healthy, thank God. My other two kids seem to love her, and our family has blended very well. And yeah, we're just enjoying our time. It's weird as a dad in 2024, for the first time again, getting paternity leave. So I worked at WGN for almost 15 years, two kids when I was there, and you didn't get paternity leave. You got, congratulations, we'll see you at work tomorrow. Or in my case, I think honestly, both my kids were born on Fridays, or at least that's what in my brain, maybe, or on maybe on a Thursday they were born and had Friday off, or whatever. But it was like over the weekend, and then you went to work. And I remember coming home being exhausted just from the newborn stuff. And then there's my wife at the time who's dealing with a newborn herself by herself all day long because I was at work. So now, full circle, be able to do it again and be home has been different for me, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been bizarre being home for 6 weeks and not having to work and not having to do anything other than just be there as a dad was pretty great. And also is you get filled with all these things that you want to try to accomplish in that time off. You want to do this, you want to do that. And I got probably, maybe 80% of the things I wanted to get done. There's still something I want to get done today, the last day of the year. I promised myself I'd write a book. And that sounds daunting on the last day of the year, but it's a kid's book. And at least I want to get down the essential idea of what this book will be. And hopefully I'll get it today. So at least I can say that I did that. Outside of that, I wanted to keep this podcast going and this website going. And I have. And I almost a story a day for the last 2 years. So, I got well over 700 stories published, stories from the 78. So I just want to thank, all the folks that have agreed to be on the platform. My friend Sean, who built the platform for me, who has been patient with me as we tweak it. over the years. He's already done a redesign. The site looks amazing. My wife, who helped design it and who's just there tolerating me do all this while she's doing important things off camera, like taking care of the newborn currently right now. But this is how I express myself. So this is what I'm going to do. It's funny this year. The other thing I wanted to start that I waited pretty late in the year to do, just because it always seemed daunting, was doing separate podcast for my friend Daryl that passed. And I started it, and it's been going well from the people that I can nail down to talk. And it's funny, a lot of these people I haven't talked to in, a lot of them I haven't talked to in like 10 years. Some of them I haven't seen in 10 years, so it's going back to a time where we were all getting started. So it's interesting to talk to everybody now as we are like in the middle of our careers, our lives, our parenthood, our this or that, our, whatever. We're all in our mid to early 40s. And we're all trying to do the thing. It's funny to talk to people, have that perspective of not talking to somebody for a long time at the beginning of all your hopes and dreams as a parent or as an adult in the workforce, and now to see where you are and how things have changed. And it's not even that people aren't hitting accomplishments or goals. It's just the goals that you thought you were going to accomplish in your 20s, definitely not the goals that you want to accomplish now in your 40s, because life happens, life gets in the way. And that's a good thing. Life throws you things that you can't plan or expect, and sometimes they're terrible and sometimes they're great. But we've all dealt with loss, we've all dealt with heartache, we've dealt with some with addiction, and some with jail time. And that's where a lot of these stories I wanted to tell come into focus about Daryl, the jail time being Daryl. He got himself into trouble. We haven't even covered that topic just yet, because I just wanted to talk more about him as the kid that we met in high school at 16 years old. And I've talked to my friend Tara, I've talked to my friend Grant, which was great to talk to everybody. And he talk to a few other people. I'm just trying to nail them down. It's tough this time of year. People aren't checking their emails, they're taking the time off. I don't want to bother people, but it is weird because I feel like talking to some of these people, I'm opening up a can of worms that or not even a can of worms, maybe more of what's less than Pandora's box, a slightly less intense version of Pandora's box of memories for a lot of these folks. Grant and I talked for the first time at length as a real conversation, probably in 10 years. And Grant used to be one of my best friends. We grew up, going to high school together, in our years of the college years, whatever those were for us, the 19, 20, 21, 22. We were like, everybody was everybody to us. We were like the Friends cast. That was us, except we didn't live together, but Tim and Grant did, which is something that we talked about. Either way, talking about these things brings up things that you don't remember, and that's half the fun, right? Is not remembering things that somebody else remembers, and then you add a puzzle piece to this puzzle that you're trying to put together, which is this podcast. But I think along the way, some of these folks that I've talked to, and even in preliminary talks, they get I want to do it, and then they're like, ooh, do I want to visit some of these things that I did as a 20-year-old? Because some of the things, that I brought up that I remember, they don't remember. Then they have this look on their face when we're talking, which they're just like, oh, I don't know if I want to talk about this, just for one reason or another. Not that it's wrong or right, it's just interesting. So my pursuit to get this podcast started is accomplished. It is started. My goal is to have it done in 2025. And release all these episodes, and also combine any footage that people find of photos and whatnot to put together an entire documentary. So that is my goal for 2025, is to get this documentary done, also refine the kids book that I'm going to write today, which is going to happen. I'm going to sit here and do it for a couple hours. And then, and enjoy what will be a great 2025. 2024 saw my daughter Lucy have her quinceanera, so I was really happy to be able to share that with my mom and dad and our families. People came in from Florida, people came in from Nebraska. I have two really great friends, that I've had since I was a kid. Tim Grant, who will eventually make his way onto this podcast. Tim's like he's dodgy. You gotta nail him down to get him to talk about the past a little bit. I think it might be a little harder for him than he likes to admit. And then Rob, who has been Tim's cousin, but Rob is one of my best friends too, and who's a Packers fan. So, but we've been friends over the years. He came into the quinceanera. We went out to see his son graduate from high school. So, in Nebraska. So, 2024 gave me a reflection of like how important it is to have people around you and in your life. After the pandemic, you kind of got used to being alone, and you kind of got used to being understanding what that meant, and being okay with it, I guess, and not really acknowledging that you want to be around people, because talking to somebody on the phone is great, right? But when you see that person that you talk to on the phone all the time in person, it's just different. My buddy Dan, who I've been friends with since college, talking about him, texting is great, but like seeing him and just talking for a couple hours over, a lunch or a couple beers or what have you, going to concerts, it's great. So that, I don't want to make this a rambling podcast of like what I'm thankful for the whole year, but it did remind me of the fact that people do matter more now than ever. And I think human interaction, talking to people in person, counts. So as I end 2024, I make a pledge to myself here, so it's out there now, but whatever, to try to do that a little bit more, and it's tough, when you have a newborn, it's really easy not to want to go anywhere and stay home. But even being away from work for almost, what is it, 4 weeks right now, full month, and not work, even though I was kind of working here and there, but being away for 4.5 weeks, it's weird, man, to not have to worry about it. That's the weird, usually when you're away from work for 4.5 weeks or 5 weeks, it's because something not great happened, or you lost your job, which is what happened to me a few years ago. So, um, you want to, you were always worried about something. So not have to worry and all that stuff. It's pretty great. So, um, I thought that might be it for the podcast for 2024. I did a lot of stories on the website, some of them that I'm trying to remember as I'm sitting here looking through some of the ones that I did over the last couple of months and years. I really love the stuff I did for Halloween, really diving into the lore of Halloween in Haddonfield, Illinois. Those are on there. And then, of course, just like the rant, talking to Ross Bond of the Mighty Blue Kings about their reunion show at the Green Mill in Chicago. And then just these great authors, talking to David Ellis, who wrote these incredible stories about courtroom dramas. And, Ellis also worked with getting Blagojevich thrown in jail and the whole thing. He's worked with James Patterson. So I've worked with these great authors, and their stories are up on the site, along just with like I said, random things that happen in the city. So like, if you have a second, go over to storiesfromthe78.com, check out the random things that I did over the years. Some of them are just quick little snippets. Some of them are long stories. Like, I talked to this gentleman who has this incredible collection of cars, and his grandfather invented the engine for the Wright brothers. So his story is on the website, and it's one of my favorite things. It was one of the first things I did when I started this website. I just waited forever to post it, just because it was never seemed like the right time to post it. But I did it this year, and it was a really fun video to put together and all that kind of stuff, and I really enjoy doing that. So get a second, go over there, type in, there's a search function on the website, and people ask me like, what is the website? Is it like Block Club Chicago or Thrillist, or and it's like none of those and all those put together in one, because I do cover things that open up in the city, And I also cover things when I travel. Like, and if you click on certain tabs, like Nebraska tab, there's a store that I did at probably the most unique candy store I've ever been to in my life. When visiting my buddy Rob in Nebraska, went to this candy store that is right in the heart of Omaha. And it's called, what is this called? It's in the old meat district. Hollywood Candy is what it is. The old meat packing district of Omaha. It's called Hollywood Candy. And it's like this museum of vintage and um, just yesteryear. It's just this really odd and cool place. They sell things. If you're a kid, or if you're somebody in their mid 40s, you'll appreciate it because everything from our childhood is in there. The candy from all over the world, from when we were kids, and you didn't think they make it anymore. They sell it there. It's just this cool place. So if you're ever like on a road trip and you're passing through Nebraska, I would definitely recommend heading to Omaha to see this. And Omaha, the city itself, is kind of cool. It's this really, fun, newer city that is in the middle of the country, right along the river. They've done a lot over the years to make their riverfront really beautiful. On the other side of the river, I believe, is Iowa. So it's interesting. You should check it out. Among other things, but I didn't want to really get into like all these stories. I don't want to do like a whole rundown list. But yeah, personal things in there as well. So I just wanted to say to everybody who's still listening to this right now, even, I appreciate the time. I will ramp it up with the podcast and figure out the Daryl stuff. And then also just continue to tell stories of Chicago and like the behind the scenes look that it has become the Stories from the 78 podcast. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, and thank you for supporting. And if you could tell your friends, subscribe on the YouTube page, click on the link on the whole thing, I would appreciate all of those things. So to everybody that had a rough 2024, we're all there with you. We're supporting you. And, to those that had a great 2024, good for you, man. Enjoy them because they are, I wouldn't say far and few between, but they're just not guaranteed. So enjoy them. And I hope everybody that listens to this, I truly mean this, I really do. To the people I love, I hope nothing but greatness for 2025, prosperity and health and all those things. So please do that. And if you have a story idea, send it my way. Otherwise, have a great rest of your 2024, the 18 hours that we have left. And we'll see you in 2025. Cheers.